I believe we have a quorum. We need 5 members. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Excellent. Yay. Okay, so the first order of business is the minutes of the April meeting. Thank you as always, Susan, for doing that. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes?
Yeah.
So I would entertain a motion on the minutes.
So moved.
So moved. Thank you, Jan. And is there a second?
Seconded.
Very good. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Raise
Aye.
your hand. Excellent. Any nays? Any extensions? You're upset?
I abstained because I wasn't
You
here.
weren't there. You actually can vote, John, even though you weren't there, but that's fine. An abstention is fine. Okay, so the second order of business, if I remember from my agenda, is a report on the ADU hearing last night. Who would like to take the lead on reporting on last night?
Well, I guess I can do that.
Thank you, Sharon.
So it was a well-attended meeting.
Yep.
And we had 3 select board members there. No, 4 select board members there. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, 4 select board members there. And Michael DeVasto sort of took the lead and presented the petition, the article for the select board. And apart from a few snafus, I think he did a great job. And, there's still, so I think there's like 3 members of the planning board that are pretty solidly in favor, and some others that are kind of on the fence, and then several that are fairly opposed. So that's fine. And we talked about the various issues, and I believe that tonight Michael DeVasto will be offering some edits to the select board version before the warrant goes to print. And those would be basically including some items that town council brought up. Town council's response to the ADU project or proposal was not negative. It was really just clarification. And so Michael will propose some of those tonight. And, I mean, the planning board meetings are always interesting and lively, shall we say. And this was no exception.
Anyone else have any observations or listened in last night? I have a couple of an observation. One is that I said earlier to Sharon that I think that the overwhelming support for the ADU bylaw seems to be apparent. All the housing committees have unanimously supported, and the select board has unanimously and enthusiastically supported it. And I think the question is not what are the niggly little things that may not be right about it, but how do we pass it as in the best manner that we can? And I really would hope that the planning board would move to that point. Is if there were things that would make it better. But we heard an amazing statistic midweek from CDP. Every other town on the Cape, allows either ADUs and or multifamily zoning. And we're the only one that don't. And to say that you support housing and to say that you are aware of the housing crisis that we have now in Wellfleet for the average working person, and to say that you can't support the ADU bylaw is really deaf ear to what's happening in the town. And I mean, the planning board should be in the lead on that, not dragging their feet on it. And I really hope that people will get out and and support it. Sharon, you are amazing. If you're going to do yet another meeting tonight, but
I'm not doing another meeting tonight.
you're not doing the select board meeting.
No, I might listen in to
Oh,
who's
right.
selected.
But anyway, people have spent tremendous amount of time and effort, all of it volunteer, to make this happen. I hope people will really get out and support this effort. And at the end of the day, even if it produces only a few year-round rentals in Wellfleet, that's a success. I mean, if we could do 2, 3, 4 a year, that would be wonderful.
And it's not likely to be much more than that.
Right. And so those who say the sky is falling with this, it's in no other town on the Cape, I think, have they done more than 5 in a year?
Yep,
Maybe
Brewster,
6.
Brewster might have a couple more, but they also have a dedicated town planner and a housing coordinator.
Okay. So anyway, I think, yes, I'm sorry.
I just have a question. What does the planning board, does it matter if they pass it or they don't?
Sure.
So
What?
what I mean, can, it still goes on the warrant.
Correct,
It's not a game stopper.
correct.
It would just be good to have their support and
Right.
obviously,
Even if it's a divided vote,
Yeah.
that says something about that there is support for it. Yes, Jan, I'm sorry.
I just want to say, to clarify for Susan, maybe, that what they're voting to do is either recommend or not recommend to town meeting. So they're not passing or approving really anything. They're just saying, do we recommend it or don't we?
in the same way that we voted as a committee to recommend it.
Exactly.
we
And
are-
that will either be reported at town meeting if it doesn't make it into the warrant, or it'll be in the warrant and it'll say how many voted to recommend or to not recommend, or do they decide, to have no recommendation at all?
Um,
And how many committees vote?
all of the housing committees, in the case of the bylaw, it would be planning, and I don't think, and the select board. Does FinCom have a vote on zoning? I don't think so.
Usually.
FinCom only does the money ones. So I don't know whether they'll do this or not, but that's about it, Susan.
Okay,
And you'll see the next agenda item is that our votes on the various housing
right.
related things. But what happens then at town hall, at town meeting, is that people get up and speak. First, those people who are in favor of it generally have a right to present. Somebody on the select board will present the article. And then the planning board may or may not speak up. A pro or.
I believe the planning board is planning on creating some sort of report. I mean, I know they have to have a report, but that's mostly just the support, recommend or not recommend. But I think that they're also going to have a little sort of addendum that says things that they would like to see, they would like to watch in the future to see, is this working or not working?
Well,
And-
if they don't have something by 3 o'clock, tomorrow at 3 o'clock is the cutoff for the warrant. So,
But this isn't at the warrant. They would
Yeah,
present
so-
their recommendations,
right,
at
so they
town.
may have a handout, if you will,
Yeah.
with comments, as we are preparing a handout for town meeting in support of it. But really, it's up to each of us to talk to our friends and neighbors and colleagues and say, here's why it's so important. Please vote. Anything else, Sharon, on the bylaw?
No, it's gonna run its course.
Yes. The chips will fall where they may. Very good. All right, so the next item on the agenda is now we are going to record the votes of the partnership for the housing-related items on the warrant. And I have to say the warrant is it's a living document these days. So I don't know if the numbers that I sent you all, a list of the ones that we have to vote on. So I will take them in that order, but I don't know. I just received the draft warrant and haven't had a chance to really look at it to see if it matches with what we have. But
You mean just the article number?
yes, the article number, and if there are any substantive changes to the substance of the article. I don't believe so, Jan,
Okay.
but we will see. So the first article, which I was just starting to scan it, is now Article 21. Is for the funding of the wastewater treatment facility at 95 Lawrence Road in support of both the 95 Lawrence housing as well as the Duck Creek watershed cleanup. Are there questions that people have? Or first of all, would someone make a motion regarding this article?
So that's not Article 19, but Article 21.
I believe so,
Katie,
but
Okay,
Susan, for our purpose, we will just identify it as the 95 Lawrence Road wastewater treatment facility.
okay. I
so you-
assume, I mean, we should have this documented in writing. That's why I'm trying to get.
Exactly right. We, as soon as our meeting is done, they've asked me to report what our recommendations are so they can incorporate them into the warrant tonight and have them for tomorrow.
And just, I guess more for Susan's benefit, because Elizabeth isn't sworn in yet, she can't vote.
Ah,
ah,
good point, Jan. Thank you. Sorry, Elizabeth. You can still speak.
Right.
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry.
Excellent. That's all right.
I'm here. I'm just,
No,
multitasking.
yes.
I just got the little kiddos.
I was going
and
to say,
all
you may
that,
be
so
the
I'm
only,
trying to do two things.
you may have the only little kids on our committee, so.
Okay.
Okay,
So I hope
so,
it's okay that I'm on mute and just shut the camera off every now and then. So
So-
it's not a distraction.
thank you, Elizabeth. This is the funding of approximately, it was 1.9 million, approximately for the capital expenditure of building the wastewater treatment facility, which would support 95 Lawrence initially for the rental housing, but in addition would support the police and the fire and the school in phase 2 and potentially residential users in phase 3.
so when you ask for a motion, are you asking, I call for a vote on this?
Well, you're asking for a vote to recommend.
Okay, I
And
vote for,
that's what the vote will be. So did you move that, Sharon?
I did.
And-
I vote to recommend.
And is there a second?
I second.
Thank you very much, Susan. So are there questions about this article? Very good. So I'm going to ask for the vote. All those in favor of recommending on the warrant the wastewater treatment, please signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye. So that's 6-0. Thank you very much. John, just as an aside, do you know where it will be when they build, if and when they build it?
No, we don't. I don't know.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I think that the second article, which is for the ongoing operation of the wastewater treatment, I believe that may not still be on the warrant after today, but we will vote on it on the off chance that it is. And then if it isn't, so be it.
Why would we be voting on this now when it's years away till it's finished?
Susan, I believe that you expressed exactly what the select board expressed. So this was an article that was originally on there. And I think they are trying to see what articles are really critical this year versus which ones can be put off. So I'm just scanning the draft that I got. and I don't see it on there. I can tell you that the funding for the wastewater is 1.9 million. The capital expenditure. I don't see that, but let's for the sake of argument, we can either let it go or vote on this.
Well, if there is even a vague chance it ends up on the warrant, we want to have a yes vote.
Okay, so that's fine. So would someone please make a motion to recommend the funding of the operating expenses for the wastewater treatment facility?
So moved, John Cumberland.
Thank you, John. Second?
Jan will second it.
Thank you, Jan. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The next one that I see as I scan this, on the list that I sent you is the housing trust, 500,000 for the housing trust, the next one. Can someone tell me?
Yes, no, it's listed as 22.
Now 28. So this is the CPC funding for the Housing Trust. I think everyone knows that the Housing Trust was just created at September's town meeting. It has no money at the present time, and this would be for all the work that the Housing Trust would do, including funding for 95 Lawrence for the next round of the buy down and other land purchases, et cetera. And it was voted unanimously by both the selectmen and the CPC member meeting. So would someone make a motion to recommend the CPC funding for the Affordable Housing Trust of 500,000?
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second,
Thank you. Is there other discussion about this?
what percentage of their budget does this represent?
We get a report each year, Susan, that shows how much the main users, which are recreation, housing, historical and open space use. And the housing has historically gotten about half. And I'd be happy to share that pie chart with you when it's available to me.
But this is the only support housing gets from the town.
I would hesitate to say that.
The main support. I'm
Yeah,
just trying to understand all these
yeah.
things
So
better.
Susan, if I would just qualify by, this is certainly the main substantial report. We support. We do get some small administrative funds from the town. And obviously from time to time, the town makes available to us town-owned land.
So this is it for buy down, for rental assistance. Well, that's different, but for
Right, for 95 Lawrence.
Right.
Yeah.
and if the housing trust wants to buy more land, it would come from this too.
It would either come from this. Now, remember that this is an annual event. So we may see another one next year, or if there is a fall town meeting, we may see funding for the trust, CPC funding for the trust.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yes, this is the primary source of money for the trust.
And Susan, we're also putting in a request for sort of a dedicated amount of the short-term rental tax
Right.
to go to housing. So that would be another source of funding.
I mean, honestly, my reaction is, considering the enormous
Not very much.
problem that we have, this
Right.
isn't very much money.
Right. I think, now appreciate that we in the CPC, this is a 6-month to 9-month process. So 9 months ago, the situation wasn't quite what it is today.
Right.
So we may have asked for a different amount, but we didn't. So this is what we asked for, and this is what was approved, and this is what we need to recommend. Other comments or
You're
questions?
muted, Judy.
There are funds presently in the old Affordable Housing Trust Fund, yes?
Yes.
And those will somehow roll over into the new fund?
It has been a topic of conversation for many months now, and we are awaiting the resolution of the town audit. As
Oh,
well
geez.
as, yes, we are
20
waiting. for-
years.
Yeah, exactly.
Appreciate that we have no town accountant.
Yes.
So we have no town accountant. We don't have a complete budgetary report. But I can tell you that from our estimate, there was about $175,000 in the old trust. Much of that money was not designated money, so it didn't come from CPC or some other source. So it's relatively, it can be used in a lot of ways. So it's not restricted. And we hope someday to transfer that over.
Except that any funds that come from CPC are restricted to use for households below, is it 100% AMI?
100%, yeah. So what, just as an aside, one of the things that the trust has been discussing is the need for workforce housing, which we have identified as being up to, I think it's 120 or 125% of median income. And so the funds that are donations could be used for that purpose. The funds that were CPC source could not. But we had a very successful, everyone knows that we had a very successful response to the
Tax insert.
mailing we did for the real estate bills.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh,
How
so-
did we do?
They're still coming in, Judy, but right now we collected over $12,000. We had an additional single request of 26,000
Bequest. Mhm.
bequests, and we have another one that's in the works that we don't know the amount of. So, there's certainly another upwards of $50,000 that we will have raised.
Still won't buy any property, but it's a
No,
start.
but it's, for a small town and given our track record, it's light years ahead of where we were. Okay, so this has been moved and seconded, if I understand it correctly. So all those, I'm going to call the question, all those in favor of CPC funding for the Affordable Housing Trust of $500,000 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Any nays? I'm trying to read this and not look at the screen. So if there is any nays or any, feel free to speak up. Okay, the next one is Article 29. And this is for funding of the Veterans Home, CPC funding for the Veterans Home in Dennis. And this is in the amount of $15,000. Does anyone want well, first of all, would someone move this?
So move, John Cumberland.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Very good.
Could you
So,
just give a little background, Gary? I'm not familiar with it.
sure. There is a veterans home that has been built in Dennis. And they came and made a request to us. And two things, the head of the veterans home and organization actually lives in Wellfleet. And one of the things that he showed us was the data on the number of veterans in Wellfleet, which don't hold me to this, but I want to say it was 130.
Wow. That's a lot.
And the number that are below the poverty line, which was a large number. I don't recall it exactly, but it was a significant number of those veterans.
And who's eligible to live in this home? Any veteran?
Anybody who's a veteran, one of our, to put this in perspective, their initial ask was for $50,000. So we support veterans, and we, the CPC now, support the veterans and certainly support Wellfleet veterans, and would love to see something closer to Wellfleet. But we also wanted to make a gesture to supporting this effort, and they've built a brand new place, and it's both temporary housing, counseling, and other social services.
Oh, this isn't like a single family home that they're raffling off or something. This is a veteran's home.
Exactly. This is a home that they have built from scratch to house, I believe,
Veteran services?
no, it's to house 4 veterans.
Oh, okay,
who
got
are
it.
in
All right.
transit.
But just on a temporary basis?
Yes, so,
Got it.
you know,
Okay.
to give you a kind of scenario, these are for people who are on the street now,
Okay, now I understand.
who are otherwise don't have a permanent home.
Mhm.
Yep, got
And
it.
it's to provide them with a temporary living space, as well as the services needed to get on their feet, and hopefully transition out. I'll just make a side note. One of our concerns was, is it only going to be the older people? But the first 4 people in there, 2 were women and 3 were from relatively recent stints in the armed services.
Okay.
So they were young people.
Thank you.
Sure. I hope this guy will have a chance to speak at town meeting. He has a good story to tell, and it's moving, and clearly there is a need, and we felt well worth it, and it's only a small amount of money. Excuse me, it says 5-bedroom here in Dennis.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on that? All those in favor of supporting $15,000 for the Veterans Home signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstentions? Excellent. So the next one is Article 30. And this is for the continuation of the Lower Cape, the CDP's Lower Cape Housing Institute. I think this is the 5th year, and all the towns on the Outer Cape do support this, and quite a few of our members and anybody who's on the committee now, even if you've taken it before, you're more than welcome to sign up to take this again, as well as any housing, as well as any official in the town.
It's well worthwhile.
Yeah, it's a good program.
Gary, is there an amount?
$7,500, excuse me. So I'd entertain a motion for funding of the Lower Cape Housing Institute, CPC funding for the Lower Cape Housing Institute of $7,500.
So moved.
So move.
Second,
Second.
thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any noes? And any abstentions? Excellent. So the next one, what's the next one on the list I sent you?
Wellfleet Affordable Housing Trust Bylaw, and it's called Article 41.
Do you happen to know, Sharon, do you know the current numbering of the ADU bylaws?
No, I don't. They used to be like 42 and 43, but I don't know where they are now. Michael was going to try to group them with other
Okay,
other
they are-
bylaws.
yeah. So 44 is does this tell us whether it's the petition one? Would the petition one come first or
Well,
second?
Petition one will come second.
Okay,
On
so
this list, 42 is the select board ADU bylaw and 43 is the petition.
I believe now, Susan, I literally just got this before the meeting. Article 44 is the Wellfleet Affordable Housing Trust bylaw, and this is the one that is proposed by the select board. I'd entertain a motion?
Wait, Affordable Housing Trust bylaw.
No, did I misspeak myself?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next thing on our list is listed on our list as Article 41, the Wellfleet Affordable Housing Trust bylaw. Then comes the select board ADU bylaw listed as 42 and the petitioned ADU bylaw listed as 43.
Right.
So
I
what's
do
the
not,
Affordable Housing Trust bylaw?
Yeah,
I
what is
do
that?
not, the first one I see is the one that is the one for the trust bylaw,
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
Article 44.
Oh, in here it says 41, but may have changed.
Okay, so let's assume that this is 40, let's vote on this. So the trust was just set up. We are required by law to have a set of bylaws. It's pretty much the legislation spells out what the bylaws are going to be. But this has to be adopted by the town. So this is the Wellfleet Affordable Housing Trust bylaws. And I have it as Article 40. I'm sorry? Let me come back.
Gary, I'm just curious, are those bylaws going to be printed in the warrant, all of them, so that people know what they're voting for?
They are in there. They're in the draft that I'm looking at right now, Jan.
And Harry wrote them.
Right. And again, they're mostly,
One has to, because it was petitioned by 26 people signed it.
No, not the trust. No, this, Olga.
this
we're
is
talking about
the housing trust, not the ADU.
Using a town meeting. They're practically identical. They will.
Olga,
Yeah. But if people read them, because,
People are suspicious, why are they trying to get over? They didn't have two of them.
because.
time, space, continuum.
we want-
Olga. We're not on that right now.
I think she's talking to somebody else. I think she's unmuted herself and she's talking to somebody else.
Okay, I'm gonna text her.
she's back on mute. She just remuted herself.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So this is the trust bylaw, which I now have as Article 44.
So moved.
Second,
I vote
Right.
vote
Let's
to
move on
recommend.
this.
And to answer your question, Jan, it takes up pages and pages in the warrant.
I was curious. That's what I was wondering. How many pages is it?
Right.
It's gonna be a big warrant.
I gotta tell you, it's pretty tedious too.
I'm not reading it. I trust.
All right, I think we
All
should move through that.
Let's not belabor this. Has it been moved and seconded?
yes,
Excellent. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. The next one I have is Article 45, accessory dwelling units. And Sharon, the first one, 45, would be the one from the select board.
Yes.
And
I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but that
Right.
was the plan, to present the select boards first.
okay. Okay, so is there any other, and by the way, it is at the request of the local housing partnership is printed in the warrant. So we get some, either some, whatever, good looks or bad looks based upon that. Okay, so is there any more discussion regarding the ADU? Therefore, who wants to move this?
I do.
It's very good. Susan, a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sharon. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Gary, I'm gonna abstain just because I'm on the zoning board and I might have to.
Sure, you don't have to explain your,
I'm gonna abstain from the next one too.
okay, thank you, Jan, and you don't actually have to explain it.
I know,
But-
but I feel that I should.
That's all right. Okay, so we have the ayes, any nays, and any abstentions. One abstention.
So one abstention.
Very good. All right, the next one on here is Article 46. this will probably be in day 2 or 3 of the town meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, if 45 passes, then 46 will not be considered.
No, but I think 45 will, you think we'll get to that on the first day?
Oh, well.
Okay, it doesn't matter. That's
If
not,
it's a nice day, maybe.
yeah, that's true. We're starting early, so that's possible. Okay, so 46 is the petition article.
So won't in practice, when 45 is presented, the supporter of 46 will propose 46 as a substitute motion?
No, John, it obviously depends upon what happens with 45, but if the first ADU passes, then likely this petition article will be withdrawn.
Yes.
Right, but my point is the petition article so identical to the first one?
Very nearly, although the select board may be making some further edits tonight.
Oh, okay. So it's not like there's different versions, because if they're different versions, obviously the petitioners will put forth the motion to substitute theirs for the select board.
I don't think they'll be doing that.
Okay, I just was curious about that. So why don't we just pass on this?
Well, we should make a recommendation so it can be printed in the warrant. We don't.
We
know-
already recommended the town one. I'm a little fuzzy.
Oh, I see what you're
Why
saying.
we would,
I don't think they're mutually exclusive, but I defer if you think you want to not. Well, I'll tell you what, first of all, someone make a motion to recommend the article.
I kind of agree with John. It's kind of like,
No, but make a motion, then we can see if we don't vote for it or we want to table it or,
Or you could move to not, to make no recommendation.
right, no recommendation.
But in the outside chance that the board one doesn't pass, couldn't this one then be presented? I mean, that seems crazy, but
theoretically, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I mean, if the first one doesn't pass, the second one's not gonna pass either. So, you know, I can't imagine Danny's gonna allow discussion on both of them.
so I move that we table this motion.
All right, we can choose
So no
not to.
recommendation.
No
We have no
recommendation.
recommendation.
Correct.
Okay. Then that's fine. And if we're asked, we're a little unsure of procedurally whether we should recommend this, having recommended the other one.
Okay, I'm not gonna second since I was the drafter, but
Okay, let's take it off the table then. I don't have any problem with that.
Well, don't you need to vote to make no recommendation?
I think so.
Yeah.
You think?
So yeah,
We're voting to not, we're not voting against it.
right,
We're voting to take no recommendation.
to make no recommendation. You're not voting not to recommend it. You're not voting to recommend it. You're making no recommendation. It's like having no comment, kind of.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
don't actually think we need a motion at all. We just need to go. We're not doing anything.
right. I was just going to say the same thing, is that the least confusing thing is to do nothing with regard to this. So are people comfortable with that?
Mhm.
mhm.
Okay, so we will take no action with regard to this.
Yep.
Okay, so let me come back. Now, the last thing has to do with the request for the transfer tax. And I'm just scanning this and I don't see it on here, so I'm not sure whether it's made it into the warrant or will it be added tomorrow or what. So we can, if you choose, vote to support it, or we can take no action.
I don't know anything about it.
Um,
Maybe, is this Ryan Curley? Ryan Curley brought this up with the select board?
Yes, I believe so, Jan.
Okay, I listened into one of the meetings, but nothing was decided. So I don't know the particulars about it.
I don't know, other than that this is a fee to be placed on certain sales of real estate.
Right, they were debating what the cutoff was. Was it gonna be $500,000 and up,
right.
or what the percentage was gonna be? We don't know that, right?
I do not know that.
Yeah, I wouldn't,
Yeah.
I wouldn't wanna,
All right, so why don't we, since we don't have enough information, and frankly, I don't see it on here in a quick scan of the, why don't we take no action?
Okay, I mean, in theory, I believe in it. I think it's a good
Right.
idea, but
So because I agree with Sharon on this, what I think we might think about is if it turns up on the warrant, can we hold a quick meeting before town meeting to endorse it? Because I think it's something we should endorse.
John, we can even make it more straightforward than that. We will have another meeting between now and town meeting. If it turns up on the warrant,
We have
we
that.
can take a vote on it and we can report that on the floor of the of town meeting.
Okay, let's leave it at that then.
Okay, does that work for folks?
yeah.
yep.
Okay. And just FYI, we did this a number of years ago. So for everyone's information on this, this is not something that we can enact, we, the town of Wellfleet, can enact. It's a request that we make to the legislature.
Which we have made before.
And many,
Right.
and all the I shouldn't say all the towns, many towns have made the same request and has yet to be passed.
Right.
But this is a different legislature and we,
Yes, and times are different and right, and the need for housing money is different and
right.
it might-
And I think there's more of a critical mass now because more and more towns are sort of signing on to the same requirement.
there may be some political momentum for it. Okay, so is there anything else on that warrant list that I sent?
No.
No.
Say one more thing, Gary. In order for me to vote on it, though, I would have to see it. I'd have to know what they were.
Sure. I
Proposal.
appreciate. So, Jen, if in fact it makes it onto the warrant,
Yeah.
we will all see it.
We'll have that by then.
Because tomorrow it's going to close and go to the printer. So we'll have it in our
Oh,
mailbox.
Gotcha, it'll be in the mail by then. Okay,
Yes.
gotcha. Thanks.
So we'll be able to see in substance what,
Okay.
if in fact it's there, what it is.
if
and
we
we-
could carry it from the mailbox to our house. At
Yes,
our age.
It's gonna be likely to be kind of heavy.
So, I must say that Harry Turkanian deserves a special award
Oh
for
my
the work
goodness.
that he has done on a volunteer and
Yeah.
at the last minute basis on the warrant. So thank you, Harry, and certainly the select board, all the work they have done. All right, can I suggest, I see that Tom Sigia is with us. And we have an item on here about, remember the last meeting, we had met with the select board, with the Shellfishing Advisory Council, of which Tom is the chair.
Mhm.
Co-chair, Tom? What are you?
Co-chair.
Co-chair,
I'm the second chair, vice chair.
vice chair. Very good.
Rebecca Taylor is the chair.
So, and so one of the things that we talked about was what can we do for shell fishermen, especially shell fishermen who are at risk of losing their grant because of losing their residence in Wellfleet. And we reached out to the shell fishermen to better understand what their need is. And one of the questions that I had asked was, how much do the shell fishermen make, and are they, within the purview of our work? How much of it is 80 or 100% of median income? How many of them? Right, 80 to 100%. And I sent to you and to everyone information we got from the Cape Cod Commission about how much people make, and it's current information. So in 2019, people who work in retail are making $35,000 a year. And I think the next lowest was artists, the next lowest. But anyway, there are a lot of people in town who.
Poets
Poets.
down there at the bottom.
If you made 45,000 as a poet, you're probably you're probably the poet laureate.
Right.
But Gary, isn't the median, area median income is listed as 74,000, isn't that right?
Right, but that's the,
We think that's skewed.
right, it's all the wealthy people in town also are represented in this information, but we're really talking about the working people, including the shell fishermen.
But so you can't really use the term area median income is what I'm saying. 'Cause officially, it's one thing.
Right, but we're really, if we drill down a little bit, the people who are in those different categories are really the people that we are focused on serving.
Any chance you can share that graphic? Do you know how to do that?
Share screen. I don't want to,
Okay, never mind.
but I sent it to everyone.
This work?
Yes. this
I've got it on an
There it
iPad.
All right, so
Yes.
the first one is retail. What's the second one, Susan?
The second one, wait, the last one, the lowest one is retail.
Right, isn't that
Then-
35,000? What is
That
that?
is 30,000.
30,000. All right.
Then comes accommodations and food services at 38,000. Arts, entertainment and recreation, 45,000. Construction, 55,000. Public administration, 73,000.
And
And
that's,
then the other are median incomes. But where are the shell fishermen in this
well,
list?
That's the problem.
we went back to the Cape Cod Commission and said, hey, the shellfishermen tell us that they have 300 people in shellfishing. That's got to be the biggest group of workers in the town of Wellfleet. Where are they? And they said they don't categorize them separately.
So
What
where are they
category-
categorized?
What category are they in?
They couldn't tell us. They think some of them are in farming,
Farming?
which we
There
don't.
is no farming.
Yeah,
Well, because there's so few farmers in Wellfleet.
But it's
So-
not listed on the,
It's not in one of these groups.
Yes, exactly right. So we Susan, for what it's worth, we had the same reaction.
Yeah, okay.
So we were trying to find out. So then I reached out to Tom and to the other folks that were attending the meeting and said, can you tell us about what people make? And maybe that we need to categorize them somewhat. Is that the wild harvesters would be one group, and the starting shelf, new grantees maybe another, because the people who have been at it for a while, probably make a good living at it. And those are not the people that need homes. John, did you have your hand raised? No? Okay. So Tom, okay, Judy. I'm
I
sorry.
think you're gonna find that there's a large range of incomes in people in the fishing business.
Yes,
I think there's some who will be doing very well and others that can barely put food on the table. I think it's a huge range.
okay. And is there any way for us to put them in buckets so that we can identify the people who really need help? Are there any buckets that are meaningful?
Hey, Gary, this is Tom. I think you were going down the right path. I think wild harvesters, you have the grant owners. Then you can maybe break up the grant owners by how much acres they have, et cetera. I never did this before. I don't want to speak out of turn, but there's a catch report that these guys have to fill out. I mean, when they go bring their oysters to a distributor, I think that's all electronic. So the state sees it, the state keeps track of it. And I think we could just do the arithmetic at whatever the going rate is per oyster on how much they're delivering distributors. Now, what I'd have to get Nancy involved big time is how do you do that? How do you figure that out? How many people are on the grant, for example? Say the grant's producing 300,000. I mean, how many people are on that grant?
Mhm.
Okay, so that's some work. I assume, Gary, you didn't get any other responses from your note?
Correct, I did not.
Okay.
But what
Let
about,
me kind of do that
Right,
behind the scenes.
there's no urgency on it, Tom. I mean,
Yeah.
we're trying to figure out how we can help you.
Yeah, I think it's important because I don't want to find out that these guys are making, 75, 100 grand, 150 grand and, the work that you and your team are doing is going to be for naught. You're not going to touch those guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I mean, I agree with Judy that some of them must be struggling.
Right, but how do we,
Yeah, that's the thing we gotta find out.
Right.
maybe it's self-identifying is that, if you'd like us to do something, come to us. Like we have certainly had people who are shell fishermen enter the buy down grant
Mhm.
program and been awarded buy down grants.
Yep.
Or certainly qualified.
No, two of them got buy down grants that I can think of.
But I'm just thinking like this year that we're qualified.
Right, there
They
were several
didn't,
that
but,
qualified,
yeah.
so maybe it's just, that's it. And the other thing that we certainly have done is down payment assistance for shellfish.
what about, I mean, grant workers? They don't have to live in Wellfleet, but I'm sure there's grant workers that want to stay in Wellfleet. I mean, how do you reach them?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's some, it's probably some from different parts of Outer Cape that work on the grant. But I don't know if they need help. That's what we got to find out. We got to break this down on how many are on the grant, how many are employed by the grant owners, that type of thing.
I would think you'd want, even if you did, not to be too particular about it, but if you could say those people who make more than 75,000,
Yeah.
put them all in one bucket. Doesn't matter whether they make 750,000
Mhm.
or 500, whatever it is, that that they're doing relatively well.
Yep.
And those who are below, and if you can make some generalization about it. Yes, John, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't mean to throw a wrench into all this, but I think this is a problem that doesn't exist. That people whose income qualifies them for our assistance, qualify them for our assistance, whether they're working on a grant, own a grant, or
Right.
or work in retail or work in whatever. I mean, our job is to work on housing for people who can't afford housing. And I don't think I think the extra effort to target a particular group is, I want, shell fishermen who are low income to be able to access housing in this town. They can, because they're low income, and we're working to get housing for low income or low and moderate income people.
I think part of it, John, is that we're trying to get some data together.
Yeah, but for what purpose? That's my.
Well, because we're trying to do this summer campaign, which is later in the discussion today. And also, there's the question of the shellfishing community have a warrant article to perhaps extend, to allow them to live out of town if they, for an emergency purposes, if, that warrant. So the
I don't
question
think
is it because they're not affording
Wait,
what is
Can I just
available,
stop
or
you for a
is it not
second? I
available?
don't think it's a warrant article.
Oh,
Good, Judy.
The way the laws are right now, in order to have a shellfish grant in the town of Wellfleet, you need to be a bona fide resident of the town of Wellfleet.
Right.
Also to have a commercial fishing license. So it's critical for people in the shellfish industry to have a residence in the town. They lose their livelihood if they have to move out of town because they can't find a place to live. And that's particular to the shellfish industry in a way it's not to other people, low income who can't afford housing here.
But is it because they can't afford housing, or because there is no rental housing available?
Yes. No, no,
It's-
seriously, I don't mean to be snide.
No, but they're
It's both.
slightly different questions.
Right. Jan, I'm sorry. Give me a second, Tom.
Let
Jan,
Tom
you
go
have your
for-
hand up.
Okay. So the shellfishing community has come to the housing partnership, though, to ask for help. So I see this as perhaps a problem of outreach to them. I don't know that you have to gather all that information. If you want the data for some purpose, that's fine. But maybe we need to just come up with a simple flyer that says, if you know, if your income is under this amount, we might be able to help you. How they need to know, are they allowed to subtract equipment, you know, expenses from that? Just maybe some more specifics to outreach to them. I mean, to say everybody can go to the website, that's easy to say, but people don't always have the time.
Right. And, you know, our website is somewhat lacking.
I mean, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that, Tom?
Yeah.
Well, what I was gonna say is we're probably talking about the low income shell fishermen that are presently renting a house. And what is happening is the homeowner would rather do a seasonal rental because the prices have gone up unbelievable. So they're asking these shell fishermen to move out. That's what started our discussion with the selectmen to move the domicile from 1 month to 18 months. So basically, we're giving them 18 months to find another rental in the town of Wellfleet. Otherwise, they just lose their commercial license or they lose their grant. So here they are, they lose their home, then they lose their livelihood. So that's why we went as far out as 18 months.
And what happened to that request?
That I believe was approved. I think the selectmen approved that on April 27th. I'm not 100% positive, but we've had no more meetings on it. So I assume it you know, Helen
Right.
and Ryan took the ball and got it approved.
You know, I just wanted to correct one thing that was said. I don't believe it's a warrant item.
No, okay, I get that. That was
Yeah,
my.
yeah, I don't think it's a
Shellfish
warrant.
regulations.
Well,
Yeah, it's just regs. It's regs, rules and regulations.
If in fact it passed, that's great. And that gives us a chance to do just what a couple people, Jan and who else suggested, that we do an educational outreach through you, Tom, and your organization to this involved shell fishermen, the relevant ones, and just let them know that we do have programs. We don't have solutions because we don't have housing, but we do have some financial assistance options that they should just know about.
Right, we have short-term gap things that we can do by way of rental assistance or emergency assistance. But the longer-term problem is to find home ownership opportunities for the working folks
Right.
in town, whether they're shell fishermen or others. And that's a challenge that's huge. Yes, Tom, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, Susan, you're absolutely right. And we are tonight, we have a 6:30 meeting. Hopefully we get enough board members on the call. But we are gonna talk about the housing. Becca, who was on the last call, Gary, and myself have brought it up with the board to say, hey, what do we really need? What are we asking the housing authority to help us with? And more important is the communication factor. How are we gonna, let's pick a date, let's pick a meeting, let's get the Wellfleet Shellfish Association to support it, let's get SPAT to support it, let's get us to support it, and get Gary, some of your experts on a call with them, just so they know what is available.
Yeah.
Which I think is very important.
Right. And can I just make an aside? One of the reasons we asked for the 500,000 for the trust without specification is to take care of things like this. So, you know, when we started that request, shellfishing housing support was really not on the horizon, not even on the radar. And now, it's a much more important thing.
I just want to make a plug here, and I made it the last time too, is I think that if the ADU warrant article is passed, that is one possibility of expanding our rental opportunities. And it's kind of the only one that's on the horizon at the moment. So, the support of the shellfishing community could be critical in that particular regard.
And the other thing on that, I would say is that while 95 Lawrence will have a tremendous impact if and when we get it built, we're 3 to 5 years away from seeing the first resident there. So it's a long time from now. Yes, John, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's also the more, it's not very popular to say, but the more expensive we make short-term rental, the less likely people will make the conversion. So any proposal to increase the short-term rental fee is something we should support for the basis of year-round housing.
The short-term rental tax.
Tax,
is
that's
where
what I meant,
What we
yes.
can affect, yeah.
But
Plus-
is-
That's a big problem.
Right.
Is there something on the warrant about that or not?
Ryan Curley was talking about it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know where you went with it.
That's a good question. There was a request to designate, don't hold me to this, but 80% of the short-term rental tax to housing. And then, given the current state of the town's financial affairs, the suggestion was to not go forward with that at this time. I don't know what happened to that.
Harry was working on it, I think.
Well,
Right.
and you could also raise the percentage of,
That's what I think Ryan Curley is suggesting. And I
Right.
think we, as a house, it's a housing issue because housing is going from year-round to short-term rentals, and anything that discourages that is things we should be behind.
and if there could be better enforcement. I know there are a lot of people who rent and do it sort of under the table. So they don't pay any tax.
Well, that's
Yep.
always going to be true. But the fact is, we have to both increase the tax and increase the allotment to housing, in
Correct.
my opinion.
Yeah.
I agree.
All right, I'm just gonna
Yeah, hey,
throw this
to answer
out.
the Sharon's question, point, we have been pushing the ADUs as best we can.
Great.
We, from not just only in the meetings, from people we talk to, tell them how important it is, et cetera, because I think that's a game changer. And then the comment on what John's saying is, yeah, if we could figure out what the break-even point is with the seasonal and the tax, maybe Ryan's trying to do that. So we don't have everybody just jumping on the bandwagon and say, we're gonna rent everything out for the summer season. And keep these seasonal people, or keep these people in their homes for,
Right.
January through December.
Can I just make one point to Sharon's,
Sure.
which is, I think it's also important to remember from a point of view of housing, that we also need money for infrastructure.
Absolutely.
So it's
I
not,
totally
I
agree.
don't want it, I don't want us to lose that because we need that infrastructure for future housing.
I totally agree.
See, is general fund. I don't want to
Yeah.
see money going into the general fund.
Right.
Housing and infrastructure is where, and I would like to see 50-50 for those.
Can I tell you that there is an Article 18 on the proposed town warrant to amend the rate of the local short-term rental tax
Oh, there is.
to increase it to 6%. It doesn't say anything about where the money will go, but this is simply to increase it from 4 to 6.
Can we endorse that for housing purpose?
I think so.
I would like to make that motion.
It can't hurt.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Okay, so Susan, can you add this list, and then when we are done with the meeting, could you just shoot me a quick note?
Saying add that to our support.
No, so that I can report it to Harry and to Rebecca at Town Hall, that this is the vote of the partnership on the various housing related things. So add
Yeah.
18 to the list that we already have.
Yes,
Okay, so I will read this to you. It simply says, the town will vote to amend the applicable local excise tax rate imposed on occupancy to 6%, effective January 1st, 2022. And it simply says raise the tax from 4 to 6%. So is there someone who would like to make a motion to recommend this?
I would recommend it.
Excellent.
Second,
Thank you very much. Any other discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Uh,
Aye. Any opposed and any abstentions? Excellent. Thank you for pointing that out, and I'm glad we caught that.
Judy has a question.
Yes, Judy, I'm
Sorry,
sorry.
I just have a comment to make about rentals for shell fishermen.
Right,
Rentals that are suitable for people in the shellfish business need to have storage area
Yep.
because they have gear and the gear has to come in seasonally. And they have to have a place to build nursery boxes, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not as simple as just having an apartment and, under normal circumstances. If you're really looking to help shell fishermen specifically, there should be some kind of a provision in your housing planning for storage for their gear.
That's why 95 Lawrence Road might not be so
right. We
appropriate.
actually talked about this and right, there's nothing. John,
this is something the Shellfish Advisory Board should take up with the selectmen, that this to me seems appropriate for the town to think about town land that can be used for shell fishermen for storage of equipment and other facilities, and that the town, it's a little bit of a stretch for the town, but I think it's a stretch the town should make to dedicate town. There's that land out by the sand pit, someplace where say this is designated for storage of, now you run the risk of damage and who's going to supervise and everything. But I think those are solvable problems if the town will make the commitment to dedicate land. And I think that request should, if it comes from the Shellfish Advisory Board, we could endorse it, because that would then open up Lawrence Road, for example, for shellfishermen, because they keep their equipment on the town storage area.
is that the town land that's part of the seashore?
No, it's,
no, this is
Seashore.
up by the DPW.
But
yeah,
maybe the seashore shared land of the town could be used too.
the seashore is not likely to go along with that. Shellfish,
A municipal
the
use.
sand pit is there.
Well, and there's lots of land around the current transfer station that's not available for housing because of a variety, blooms and blah, 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 that we've already investigated, but it certainly could be, suitable for storing shellfishing gear.
That's a good point.
I don't think this is our issue right now.
Right, I was gonna say, right.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tom, I think that we would be happy at another meeting to take up the question, or if you want us to come to one of your meetings to talk about what can we do.
All right, Garrett, thank you. I will report back after tonight,
Great,
Garrett, and hopefully we can resolve what we really want to do.
great. Thank you.
Can
so
I-
But
much.
some of these points everybody's making are I'm writing them down. Are very good. Appreciate
Can I
it.
just make one more point to Tom?
Sure, Sharon.
Which is, I'm sure that every shellfishing person in town, well, I suspect, would support ADUs, but what's really important is, will they come to town meeting?
Mhm. I didn't look at the town meeting, whether it's low tide or high tide. What is it, June 25th,
June 26th, I think.
June 26th?
It probably goes through two tides, right?
Gary, Gary, I have to leave.
Okay, I appreciate John.
So great meeting, good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you.
Hi, John.
Bye, John.
We'll talk about when the next meeting is.
Bye, John.
Okay,
Okay, take care, John.
Sharon, good point. June 26th, high tides, 1 o'clock, 12:47,
Perfect.
1:33. So that's, they should be there.
It's perfect. Good. Because
excuses, right?
all that really counts is the vote.
Yeah, no excuses. All right.
Okay,
Gary,
Thank
thank you.
so thank you very much for your time, Tom.
Hi,
All right,
Tom. Thank
for
you.
allowing me on
Bye.
your call.
Thank you.
Take care.
In terms of today's agenda, do you want to talk, Sharon, about the summer fun and what help you need?
Sure. I mean, I
What's
think,
happening?
so you all, I think, got, maybe it was just today, got sort of the summary of some of the summer plans. Did everybody get that?
Yep.
And so, this is really just an update. One thing that we definitely want help with, so as I said in here, the highlight will be this housing story slam and variety show.
Can I stop
and-
you? Can I stop you there for a second? Yesterday's ADU hearing at in front of the planning board, Michael told his housing story,
Yeah,
and boy, do you need to jump on him.
yeah,
To
good,
be
good, good,
one
good.
of the stories.
And he'd be willing to do it.
Well, I don't want to volunteer him, but I think he'd be a great.
He'd be likely to be willing to do it because he's very, very supportive. Yeah, so I mean, what we really need now is people who have housing stories. And so I don't know about Susan. I mean, I'm thinking if we had 5 or 6 or 7 storytellers, we would be doing really well.
Yeah, I think that's true. And what Preservation Hall suggested, I met with the whole staff yesterday, and they're really enthusiastic, and they have a couple of suggestions about good storytellers too.
Oh,
And
terrific.
I guess the way they work their story slam, and maybe the way they often work, there's most of the storytellers are
Yes,
plants in the audience, pre-chosen.
exactly right.
But we should leave the opportunity
Yes,
for some people who literally are moved by what they hear to stand up and tell their story too. I didn't ask them for an exact number, but I will, because they've done a bunch of these, but I think that's a ballpark figure.
And then the idea is to maybe intersperse it with a little bit of local musicians singing songs of home and maybe a couple of sing-along songs,
Yeah, and
home
they
based.
they endorse that too, because
Okay.
we want to make this a night that's appealing.
Lighten it up a little.
They
Um,
certainly emphasize the importance of the publicity, which they will do through their website, but it's
Yeah.
sort of we have different target audiences that hopefully we can reach as well. And Sharon, they have access to the newsstand window too. I don't know who the person is.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, but they have the key, so I assume you won't have any problem with whoever you're working with, but
Okay,
they
yeah,
can do it too.
yeah, great.
All right. Sharon, what
so-
else do you need? What
Well,
can you do?
so I need people to, put their thinking hats on and think if they know anybody that has an interesting housing story. I mean, sometimes it'll be stories of success and sometimes it'll be stories that maybe are not so successful. We don't want them to all be downers, but I had one idea, which I ran by Susan the other day, which I don't know whether Emily was in the conversation.
Oh, she was. She thought her father was a good possibility.
So for example, Gary Joseph, who's well-known around town.
Right.
He and a group of other people, many of whom I know, received like HUD assistance to build their own homes, and they formed this sort of self-help thing with a contract.
Oh, Judy.
Yes, yes.
Were you one of them, Judy?
No, but I was very much involved with trying to make that happen here again.
Again.
With
And I think it
Oh,
wasn't
he's
funded
so
with
good at this
USDA.
thing. So anyway, Gary Joseph was one of that group, and his daughter Emily is a full-time employee of Preservation Hall. And she grew up in the house that he built. And, you know, all the people that I know that were part of that group, you know, lived here at least until they died, and they raised their children here. And, you know, it's a real success story.
Do you think that people, you, Susan, could get someone from Habitat?
Sure. Oh, I mean, not only could I was intending to ask my family. Is that, you mean a
Yes,
Habitat?
exactly right.
Yes, yes, I was intending to ask my family, or if they don't want to do it, the other family. I thought you meant in addition to that,
Oh, no,
an
right, that's
official
right.
Habitat. No, you just mean,
But
yeah.
if we got a Gary Joseph related one, and we got a Habitat related one, and we got Mike DeVasto, that's, you know, 3 good anchor.
and the other Preservation Hall suggestion was a person who has or is about to reactivate a current ADU. Because I thought it'd be good to talk about, you know, an ADU success story too.
If they're legal.
Hoga was on,
It's legal, it's legal, this is legal.
Okay, so that's not an ADU, that's just an apartment.
ADU.
no, wait, but
Maybe it's an AAD.
AADU, okay.
Yeah, I don't know any, I'll find out more details.
yes, can I make 2 AADU? One is Olga. I mean, I
One
don't
is-
know if
one is
her-
what?
Olga has 2 AADU.
Oh.
No, she has one.
Just one? Oh, I think she had 2,
Still.
but Alfred,
Yeah,
both either him or someone in his family, or maybe someone who rents from him.
and I don't know if Elizabeth is on this call still. Are you listening in, Elizabeth?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Right.
because, you know, Jason and Elizabeth will be providing a raw bar at this, you know, at this event, which is fabulous. So the proceeds will go to the trust and it's shelling out for housing. And, but, you know, if either of you might consider telling something of your housing story, because it's, you know, it's sort of long and evolving.
Yeah, definitely. Oh man.
Right.
We've been around. Okay,
And
yeah,
then-
yeah.
And that's also the shellfishing, you know, piece, which is, I think, important to have represented. So think about that, you know, I'll talk to you more about what's involved in being a storyteller, because it's not for everybody.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
I don't want to
great.
put you on the spot.
Right. Speaking of which, I would be the MC if you really couldn't find anybody. I have another suggestion. Did you get the person you wanted?
Well, the person I wanted was Stephen Russell,
Stephen is the one I was going to suggest.
and Elaine said she would ask him, but she wasn't
Right,
sure. She
Stephen would
also
be-
had some other
right.
thoughts.
Stephen would be very good at that.
Oh, he would be my preference because he always did the Yule for Fuel and he was so
Right,
great.
right.
and
He has
it's
a nice, you know,
Exactly.
low key presence and, okay. Find out from Elaine, or just ask Stephen himself.
Are they related?
They're
Stephen,
married.
well,
Yeah, that's-
we actually have the same anniversary, and we have been married, I think, the same number of years.
Oh, my goodness.
More than ours, 45, I think they're the same.
Wow.
How many?
45, this is our 45th year together.
We're up there, right there too.
Yes, so,
Me too.
yeah.
Not 45, but 42.
Yeah. Well, we always have a discrepancy between married and living together.
Yeah, so we have the same hedge.
So do we.
Anyway.
Okay, so
I
anyway,
believe-
I think that is, that's all great news, that those ideas, very good ideas. And, you know, so, and then I don't think we'll have a problem finding performers. And Elaine had some ideas on that. And, you know, there's lots of great local musicians. So I think that would be really fun.
Great, I think, and can I ask, are we going to try to raise money?
That's
Or is
what I
this
was
just
asking.
raising consciousness?
Well, you know, we could go either way. And I leave that to other people to decide. I hadn't like said like a ticket amount. I mean, I'd love the idea of people being able to wander in off the street. They see something going on and they wander in and they get informed about our housing issues.
Oh, I don't think we should charge admission. Gary, did you mean that, or did you mean like, you know, ask for donations?
Yes, I think, you know, like the Outer Cape Corral, nothing to get in, but they then pass the hat to get out. And people come, you know, bring a check. Is the idea. The other thing we could do is we could have some auction items or a silent auction thing or
Mhm, mhm.
one big thing, you know.
I heard at one point Judy was thinking about a quilt, but I don't want to pressure her.
She better get started.
A lot of people are just walking around with plastic these days, you know, just credit cards. So we should think about.
That's a good point.
Right.
I have
Well,
the
we-
same-
That's Hall could probably help us with that.
We could
Yeah.
have we could have a takeaway, either our brochure or our flyer for the event, and just says, you know, to make a donation,
Yeah.
do this.
Right.
The other category of person I thought about asking to talk, and I think I mentioned this to you, Sharon, is, you know, I have this neighbor across the street who has this idea that he can
Exactly.
buy land, build a house, and build AADUs on it. And then that's sort of his contribution. And then, you know, people get to live someplace, and actually there's a real estate financial investment model where the people who do that, I mean, it's a huge amount of money. They get some return on their investment. So I can't articulate this because I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I don't know if it's an appropriate audience where it would be helpful to have him speak. I mean, I know, you know, a few people who I'm going to encourage to come who definitely can, if they chose to, have the ability to help housing in more than little ways. So he's a wonderful, sort of low-key, very unassuming, self-effacing, wonderful guy. And I don't know if he'll do it, but it just, if there was some sort of message like that to give, because, the other thing that someone suggested at Pres Hall, should we involve, as people helping us get an audience, the somewhat reinvigorated, somewhat less offensive, whatever they're called, seasonal homeowners association.
Right, definitely, you should reach out to them.
Yeah. I mean, I've never joined that organization because they used to be really horrible, but I'm still not going to join it because I don't really want to be a seasonal homeowner. I want to be a year-round homeowner. But I mean, I would happily reach out to them. And actually, on their board is Carl Sussman, who helped
Right.
with the 95 Lawrence, is on the 95
Right.
Lawrence Road Task Force. So
I could certainly ask Carl.
yeah,
but
so can I.
What is it I think you have to think about what do we want? What is it you want?
Yeah, I mean, this is just a new percolating
right.
idea, but
Right, but you could ask Carl. I mean, doesn't matter, but we have to figure out what do we want from them.
Well, I think what you want is people to come, right?
Is it,
Seasonal homeowners to
is it
come.
inside or outside you're having this?
outside.
Okay.
Pres Hall has not actually officially started to plan indoor events. So I think outdoors is great anyway.
Right.
I hope it doesn't rain.
Well, yes, because they really don't officially have a rain date. They'll work with us to try to find one, but that's true for all their events this summer. I mean, it's just a
Aren't
limit.
they going to have a tent in the back?
They don't have a tent all the time.
That's
So
paid for by weddings.
yeah, if we happen to coincide
What does a tent cost?
A lot,
What?
thousands.
Well, what's 1,000, 10,000?
I don't know. I can find out.
I mean, we might want to invest in that. I don't, you know, if it was 1,000, I'd say maybe.
More than that, but I'll find out.
How about a bunch of umbrellas?
Yeah,
Something.
there's some little, shelter things. I'll talk to them about rain
Okay.
options.
All right. So what else can we do to help?
I think, just keep your thinking hats on at this point.
I really think it is an opportunity not just for consciousness raising, but for some fundraising, or at least get the people thinking about.
Well, if we're handing out our flyers, Gary, that we
Yeah,
talked
but-
about this morning, our brochures.
Well, we have to think about what's our ask, and I don't, I don't know if it's something that someone would donate that we would auction off, or just I sort of like the pass the hat, but not
But I
We-
think
we could speak-
also,
bring your checks. I mean,
I think we had a conversation, for the rest of you, we had a conversation with someone from CDP this morning about a brochure that we're trying to put together for the summer, and we're really like focusing on the big ask, And I mean, we sort of I started out more moderate, but we kind of like going for the money. Because $25 donations, they're lovely and they're consciousness raising, but they're not going to do a thing for housing.
right.
And so, and there's a lot of wealthy people in town, so we'd like for them to be mobilized.
I think if you did something about bring a check or think about a check or whatever beforehand, so it's not just the spur of the moment.
It's a good idea.
You might be able to get something. Okay. Anything else on this or other activities, Susan, Sharon?
Well, just people read the other, the other ideas that are happening, and any place anybody wants to jump in, or anybody has any ideas for additional, fun things or whatever it is, it's all welcome.
Where is Ann Suggs Gallery?
They just bought in like January or whatever, the building that used to be the depot, used to have the pizza parlor in it.
Town Pizza, they bought the Town Pizza building.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so one half of it is going to be Lee's yoga studio.
Oh, that was the cafe that what's her name ran.
Well,
Yeah. Across from
Uh,
the hardware store.
Yeah. My daughter worked there. Right.
and so anyway, Paul's gallery will be on the other side of that. And
Oh, perfect.
and then there's apartment up top, and they're working like dogs.
Yeah, they've got a big, tractor backhoe thing there now.
Yeah, they're putting in an innovative
Gene.
alternative system.
Right. Gene owned that house.
Who?
Gene.
Gene,
is-
right.
Gene Woodis, yeah.
yeah, I have a cookbook, her cookbook from that cafe.
Well, it's been many things
Yes.
over
Okay.
the years. And so I think this is a good use for it.
If there's anything that we can do, don't hesitate to, use our membership and send out a request or get in touch with people
Good.
and let us know what we can do to help with this. I think,
Yeah,
everybody, we're
mean,
really doing
obviously-
some good things.
It should be in the news, the housing
Right.
newsletter.
So, and we should be
That's a
able,
good idea.
we should definitely get some publicity out, but I think flyers and posters the town is already crazy with traffic.
I think the news store window will be a big,
Yeah.
a great asset.
Well, we
I
could
looked at it today. It is so congested with stuff. I mean, it also needs a little bit of
The window,
cleaning.
no, I've already spoken to Harriet, and the sort of the art peacemaker stuff, I think will come out.
Sharon?
Or else we'll get them involved in working on housing issues.
Sharon, don't ignore the churches. They have a good network, and if we get the information out to them, it's a good way to disseminate it. We always handed stuff out at the school. I don't know in the summertime what we could do, but
Well,
But,
so
yeah.
maybe someone else who's more affiliated with the church.
they have a
um,
sneaker, they have a backpack net that, they give it to the kids so if we have it before the end of school,
Maybe the rec program.
yeah, rec would be another good source of that. Obviously, the post offices,
Mhm.
the liquor stores.
Yeah, so when we get closer, we're really looking at the months of July and August.
Yeah.
And so when we get closer, I definitely would, hope for support from the committee in terms of publicity.
Right.
And for anyone who didn't get to read the thing that Sharon sent out, it is definitely August 11th, which is a Thursday night.
Great. And
Thursday.
Jan, we maybe do a blast to the forum
If
mailing
you
list.
send me the information, I'll pass it along to John and have him ask, or you can just send it directly to John, but I mean, I'm happy to pass it along. but-
Right.
And he can ask them if they'll do it.
And I'm
yeah.
sorry Tom isn't here, but maybe Judy, we could get SPAC to send something. Obviously, this is something that, touches them as well. Okay. I think I had originally suggested the 24th of June for a meeting, but maybe we should have one sooner.
Gary,
We-
Can I say something about meetings?
Sure,
So I don't know if you got any information about this, but the regulatory boards got information from town council that because Governor Baker is set to lift the emergency, the state of emergency on June 15th. So that state of emergency included the ability for boards and committees to have Zoom meetings. And once that's lifted, unless something gets done at the legislature, we're all gonna have to meet in person.
ooh,
And yeah, because John's immune system is compromised. I mean, we've all been vaccinated, but I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm throwing that out. I don't know if you've heard about this, Gary.
I
no,
hadn't even thought of that.
I thought of it at one
I
time.
just don't know what I'm gonna
in
do.
passing, but, well, we'll assume that the next meeting will be a Zoom meeting. If it turns out we can't have a Zoom meeting and that it has to be in person, we'll cross that bridge.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be advertised a certain
And
way.
the question, are they mutually exclusive? I don't know.
I don't
Or
know.
could we have it outside?
We could do that.
I don't know if we're allowed to do that once the
don't know
state of
either.
emergency is lifted.
I-
It doesn't matter so
I'll
much
check
with us because it's a really small group, but when you're talking about, there were 95 people on the Zoom meeting at the zoning board last time.
Right.
95, were they?
I think it was 98 even at one point.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the issue?
It was Route 6, the
Oh, Route 6,
piles of dirt.
yeah.
Um,
They might, you know what, they might do right by the town and donate that for housing, but
Good luck.
that's the thought.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so,
Why don't we have the next meeting on June 14th? I mean, I don't know the exact date, but a date before June 15th.
sure, I was actually going to suggest the same thing is the town meeting is on the 26th, the pre-town meeting is on the 14th.
Yes,
So do you want to have it after the pre-town meeting? That'd be
Well, the 15th is the next day.
15th, yeah. So do you want to have it, a Friday afternoon would be terrible. So the 10th. Do you want to try for the 10th? It's only 3 weeks away, but 2 weeks away. Time flies when you're having fun.
No, it's three weeks away.
3 weeks away. All right, let's shoot for the 10th. Is 4 o'clock still work for folks, or do you want to do a different time?
Play with me.
Fine, okay. So let's say the next meeting will be on the 10th at 4 o'clock. All right, is there anything else that folks have? I appreciate everyone's time and attention today. Anything else that's on the critical?
This isn't critical, but I'm obsessive. There were 2 people as members of this meeting as guests, but then they disappeared. So Olga and Lisa Monahan.
I don't know who she is.
Yeah.
Okay, I happen to know her and I don't know why she was on the meeting. I thought I'd find out, but, and Tom, I'm definitely gonna list. He participated, but,
Siggia, Siggia is,
okay.
And I
okay.
think that Olga is, you
she's
know,
the unofficial representative from the planning board.
and I
Okay,
think she's waiting until the ADU bylaw, you know, town meeting and all that kind of stuff before she'll become official,
So I'll just list her.
Right,
the guest.
that's a guess. And again, Susan, if you could send me just the list of with the warrant article.
You
numbers.
just want the one we added about the excise
Mm.
tax. You
Yeah,
want all, do you want, I mean, all,
I can take care of it. Don't bother. I'll do
don't
it.
bother with anything, or, I mean, I can send you the whole, I can send you the updated list with whatever you want, just. tell me.
Yes, if you take the list I sent you and just add the votes to it and add that 18,
And change the numbers on
change
the,
the numbers, right, then I can, their meeting starts at 6 o'clock, so
I'm gonna sit here right now and do that for you.
super.
Okay.
you so much. All right, anything else that people have? Well, thank you all for, lots of good things happening. Oh, I didn't even touch on, we released the 95 Lawrence RFP. So we are now soliciting developers and.
Any early indications of interested?
Yes, we've had people who said they're interested, but you know, that and $2 get you a cup of coffee. So
But it wasn't the CDP maybe interested?
they had some interest in partnering with someone. It remains to be seen whether they will or
I
not.
think they were partnering in management or something.
Right, they wanted
the
to be
project.
in the management side of it, right? But we'll see. All righty.
Right?
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all for a terrific meeting, and we'll
Meeting.
see you on the 10th, if not before.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take
Right,
care.
bye.
Bye, everybody.